Yes, people, I am doing this. I will be dissecting and analyzing one of the weirdest story experiences I have ever endured. And the storytelling is so cheesy, yet it is so good. F-Zero GX was a 2003 racing game developed by Sega's arcade division, Amusement Vision, with Nintendo handling the publishing for the console and the arcade versions. This was meant to be the first ever collaboration for Nintendo and Sega before the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series. When it was released, the game got overall positive reviews, even with some critics calling it the best racing game on the GameCube platform. It introduced new AX racers, it was the first game in the series to include English voice acting, and has the infamous story mode, which is what we will be covering today. We may now begin our journey to this really weird universe. Now, before the pure absurdity that is the story is uncovered, I need to uncover the brief lore that takes place before the events of this game. In an F-Zero Grand Prix 4 years ago, an accident on the racetrack happened which caused some of the racers to go missing. In other words, they are dead. Some say that 2 people caused this accident, that being Black Shadow and Deathborn. Another culprit being Blood Falcon, an evil doppelganger of Captain Falcon who was created during the event. Now, get ready. This is where we begin to unravel the plot of story mode. One night, when racing or something, I have no clue what's going on here, Black Shadow crashes his vehicle. Upon exiting the vehicle, he runs into Deathborn, who is not too pleased with his failures. Upon request, Deathborn gives him one more chance to win the Grand Prix. This is where the conflict begins to unveil. Also, it has English voice acting in it. And it is something.
You know the price of failure. Yes, I can win it this time. I swear.
Like, the performances aren't that bad, and the line deliveries are pretty okay. It's just that some of the characters, like John Tanaka, have very unfitting voices. There is also Silver Nails Scene, who goes from having a cranky old man voice to this.
You're the famous Falcon. Please, I beg of you, enter the bet race. What?
Chapter 1 opens with a few of the characters watching the news of Black Shadow enjoying himself as he terrorizes the lightning area. He claims that the prize will be his. We then see Captain Falcon training for the Grand Prix. After he finishes his training, he gets ready to do some bounty hunting work. You know, his usual daytime shtick. However, Chapter 2 has him encountering Samurai Goro in Red Canyon, where he challenges Falcon to a drag race. Why, you may ask? Because he's salty about losing the Falcon. He's like, "You stole the grand prize from us last time. Now we must compete in a drag race with the loser giving up their vehicle." When you do beat him, he doesn't even give up his vehicle. Granted, he did crash it and it goes boom. In Chapter 3, Captain Falcon vibes in the bar while Silver Nails Scene asks him to enter the bet race, holding 2 million space credits. Captain Falcon succeeds and Silver gives him Falcon's share. However, Black Shadow is still running rampant in the lightning area, so Falcon leaves the bar and heads to the lightning area without the money. So what was even the point? Chapter 4 feels like that one filler episode in your favorite show to watch, because here, Falcon is pursued by Michael Chain's gang. Now he has to take them out. I felt like this was something so the game would give you something to do while reaching the lightning area. Chapter 5 has Falcon arriving at the lightning area. John Tanaka informs that Jodie Summer is still in the building, so Falcon goes in and rescues her. Once they make it, Falcon spots Black Shadow still clearly enjoying himself with terrorizing a facility. Chapter 6 is just a spoof of the movie Speed. They weren't even hiding it. Look, Falcon encounters Black Shadow, and after he reveals his plan to eliminate the competition and take the prize by force, he restrains Falcon. Blood Falcon pops up and plants a speed-sensitive bomb on the Blue Falcon, and it takes off. Luckily, Falcon breaks free and steers the Blue Falcon to safety. After he goes flying off a ramp, a crane hits the bomb, knocking it off. Chapter 7 is the big one. The Grand Prix has finally come, and it's high time to settle the score with Black Shadow. I like how Black Shadow is surprised he's still alive, yet he thinks that he gets the chance to make mincemeat out of Falcon, which would beg the question. The news clearly exposed him attacking in the lightning area, yet he's allowed in the race for some reason. Yet again, this is the same universe where a mercenary, literal children, and a cybernetic Big Demon are allowed to race. Captain Falcon wins the race and Deathborn shows up to literally murder Black Shadow. Then he challenges Captain to a race in the underworld. Chapter 8 has Falcon accepting the challenge and gives him the belt. Deathborn explains that forces of light and dark are contained within the belts. When combined, the power can be seized and he can use the power to destroy the galaxy. Captain Falcon claims that he will beat him, in which he does, and the two belts combine to make a bigger belt. It's actually a pretty good moment with a great song in the background. The last chapter is when it really goes off the rails. After a simple and cheesy yet entertaining story, they decided to take the plot, turned it upside down, and yeeted it out of the window. In Chapter 9, Falcon enters the creators, being God. It turns out the creators set everything up, meaning that they created Deathborn, and he was claimed to be their best creation. Since Falcon won the Underworld and Overworld Grand Prix, the creators will make him into their creation if they win a race. However, Falcon beats them in the race and the story ends. Yeah, things went way off the rails towards the end, and it makes no sense at all, and it retcons the entirety of what Chapter 8 mentioned. Like some stuff in the story mode that doesn't make sense, like why didn't the bomb automatically go off when Blood Falcon planted it? The aforementioned why they allowed a terrorist into the race. There is also how did Captain Falcon get to the Underworld. The plot is super cheesy and nonsensical, and I love it. If you are going to include a story mode in a racing game, why not go completely nuts with it? It's so unapologetically cheesy, it's actually entertaining. So that's why the whole thing with God is added. It's because everything else made no sense, so go all out with it. However, I won't excuse it from completely retconning everything Chapter 8 explained. If you are going to set up lore with the belts, I think it's best to keep it and not throw it out the window. So the story mode was not that bad aside from its brutal difficulty, subpar English voice acting, and that really weird final chapter. We are not done with F-Zero GX just yet. No. Far from it actually. We still have characters to go through. We only got a glimpse of what these characters were in F-Zero X. We got their backstories, and the ending pictures showed us some of their personalities. Then you get Mr. EAD who rips his face off like, what is that? So when F-Zero GX has more content, meaning their personalities will expand, right? That would be an astounding yes. Everyone has something that expands upon their character, especially within their interviews whenever you complete a cup. Mr. EAD reveals that his brother was scrapped for parts to make his machine. Billy wants money so he can donate it to charity. Leon takes care of a group of orphans and even helps at their orphanage. Beastman is fully committed to the role as a superhero despite how dopey he is. BioRex really wants to eat everybody, except for Samurai Goro for some reason. Drac is actually a huge F-Zero nerd and practices racing on the video game. Baba is the mascot of Tumblr.
F-Zero is the only worthy recipient of my affection.
And so much more. Don't forget, there are also AX racers. We have Don Genie, that nerdy kid from the Polar Express, Daisen-Gen, that Nightmare and Reject, Daigoro, Diet Shantae, Lily Flyer, PJ, QQQ, Phoenix, and Deathborn. The AX racers are pretty interesting too with their backstories and stuff they do. Daigoro is a really rowdy kid, but he admires his father a lot, and that's really wholesome. Lily Flyer began her training soon after she was born, and despite being naive, is very strict from the influence of her training. PJ got into a fight with his upper management over a demanded raise in payment. Spade is actually a harmless being and makes an excellent cook. Then, you get the most infamous parts that would probably be the reason why we are probably never going to get a new game in the series. The pilot movies. These are the equivalent of the ending images from F-Zero X. Some of these aren't even bad, like Mr. EAD baking a cake, Zoda making a second version of himself as a bioweapon that definitely doesn't look like Eggman, Black Shadow doing outtakes of the story mode's opening cutscene, also Deathborn watching a movie of himself destroying a city. This is where things get really weird. Remember when I said about the inclusion of God was when the game's plot was turned upside down and yeeted out of the window? When it comes to the endings, the same thing happens, but it got a weird makeover after watching a YouTube video on DIY. You get the weirdest endings like Dr. Stewart, who is clearly on something, why is QQQ wearing swim trunks, Octoman modeling because some sicko wanted to see that, and the absolute work of art that is PJ's ending. And whoever made Lily Flyer's ending should go to prison. I'm not joking.
What is this? What is this?
These endings touch upon the more absurd side of F-Zero GX, like how God shows up out of nowhere at the end of story mode. You know, I don't mind. They don't have to be like Tekken where it has overarching narratives. They just have to go nuts with it and have ideas of what their characters would do. However, most of these do look formulaic because there are model endings, beach endings, disco endings, laundromat endings, and racing sim endings. Regardless, these endings are the weirdest to come out of any game, yet I love it too much to call these bad, as in quality, endings. Now we have officially covered the basic lore and the lore within the characters. Now it's time for us to conclude this wonderful work of art. I have to say that despite everything I have said about F-Zero GX, from how absurd the story mode's plot and those pilot movies were, is the lore to F-Zero GX as a whole interesting. Yeah, I think the ideas that they have here were pretty cool. Sure, the whole thing with God was weird and retconned everything Chapter 8 explained, but seeing Captain Falcon beat them in a staff ghost race? Heck yeah, I would take that! Even the lore with the pilots are cool. And we got to see that in their personalities shine through profiles and especially their interviews. They even have day jobs, and we get to see some of that in the endings despite how weird or fever dreamy they are. That is also two other topics that were done well: absurdity and cheesiness. The aforementioned final chapter and the endings being the greatest examples of being absurd. If Shaperless taught me anything, it's as long as it's done right, nonsensical, dumb fun is something that can be enjoyed. F-Zero GX did this extremely well. Most of the stuff that wasn't gameplay made no sense and reeked of 2000's cheesiness. And it's so lovable, mainly from the subpar voice acting that makes it so cheesy. It feels like some actors actually committed to the character they're playing or tried way too hard. Some of them even sound different, like Silver Nail Scene in Deathborn.
Why don't you and I race each other tomorrow? Surely, as champion, you have to accept the legendary Grand Prix. Hardly challenging for someone of my talents.
So what do I think should happen for the next game if there is one? I think going completely nuts with it again should work. I'm not saying that it should always be the zany universe of futuristic car racers. The GBA anime game adaptations of all things actually dove into serious storylines. So really, I think it should be both. Why not go crazy with it and have a solid storyline? Paper Mario the Origami King did the exact same thing, having pure nonsensical ideas and making it work, while having some strong moments in the story that actually make it feel compelling. So really, I think they could go all out on the zany in this while actually trying to tell a story. That's what this game sort of did, and I would love to see more of it. I would also love to see what wacky ideas they could come up with for the endings, but I would like to be less formulaic with them. So really, I want to see what they could do with this ideal if that comes into fruition. But regarding the state of F-Zero, it wouldn't be too likely that we would get another game. Only time will tell if that happens or not. Sega, Nintendo dear, would you not make anything like the Lily Flyer ending ever again?